Heyo! Today I'm going to teach you how to retire early through property investing and the frugal mindset that you should have to enable you to become rich. I'm going to split this video into two parts and talk not only about the mindset that you should have, but also give you a step-by-step process on how to retire in 5 to 10 years. This video will not only change your opinion or your mindset about investing, but also give you the tools to retire rich and to retire early. Just a quick word of advice. You probably won't be able to retire early unless you do this one super important thing, and that's to drop a like down below. Now let's get into the video. First up is talking about the mindset that you should really have. By having this mindset, it enabled me to buy my first property at the age of only 23. And if you implement these same strategies and techniques, you'll be able to do the exact same and be well on your way to an early retirement. This mindset has been nicknamed FIRE, or Financially Independent and Retire Early. Effectively, what you want to do is control your spending and your outgoings and become a bit more frugal, and that will help you to save a lot more and become financially independent. Now, a lot of people don't have this mindset and they buy a lot of unnecessary junk. They go to the shops and they buy things just because they look cool or they might come in handy someday. And they make expensive choices such as buying the finest groceries or designer clothes, or even buying a new pair of trainers every single month even though they have no real need for them. Now, I know a lot of people have this mindset, and I did when I was younger as well. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to treat yourself to something nice every now and then, completely the opposite. I'd say if you have a hobby, spend money on that hobby, but don't spend unnecessary money elsewhere. But I'm also not saying that you need to go completely crazy and completely change the way you behave, such as reusing napkins, or doing your dishes in your old bath water, or selling everything and sleeping on the floor. You don't need to pinch every single penny possible. You just need to do a bit of a double take or a double think before you buy something. Just think to yourself, do I really need this £200 t-shirt, or can I get away with a £10 t-shirt? They'll do the exact same thing and probably last the exact same amount of time. One's just a lot cheaper. There's also a bunch of other things you can do as well that usually boil down to simplicity, organisation and frugality. Say for example you've got a few spare phones lying about in your house that you never really use anyway. You might as well sell them because it will get you a bit of extra cash and it won't make your life any worse or any more difficult because you weren't using them anyway. You can also make some cheaper choices. Let's say you're out shopping. Instead of getting the finest groceries and the finest branded Frosties, just get the Tesco's Frosties because they taste the exact same and they're probably less than half the price. But I know what you're thinking. Tom, I'm not going to get rich just by buying Tesco's Frosties. And you're absolutely right. But let's see how much that could save you over a year. The typical shopping trip is probably around £20 to £30 per week per person. And you can make this a lot cheaper, say only £10 per week, by making cheaper choices or shopping at a cheaper supermarket. That will save you around £500 to £1,000 a year, every year. If you make a few other cheaper choices like this, such as not having a morning coffee on the way to work, that will save you another £3 a day, and over a full year that will be another £600 that you save. So you could probably quite easily save an additional £3,000 to £4,000 a year just by making some cheaper choices like these, or for example by buying cheaper clothes. This will give you some good starting cash to start a business or to start investing in property or stocks for that matter. And I'm not saying that you need to be cheap or not to buy anything or not to have any fun. There's just probably some smarter choices that would cost you less in the long run. So what cheaper choices did I make to save for my first property and my cars? I made some fairly simple choices, such as deciding to make food at home and take it to work, instead of going out and buying lunch from the shops every single day. I also made the choice to not drink much alcohol or do drugs. I still went out clubbing every single weekend and had a lot of fun. I just didn't spend hundreds every weekend on drugs and alcohol. If you've enjoyed the video so far, leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of mindset you have and whether you think a frugal mindset is a good one. It definitely isn't for everyone, but I do think it helps. Now obviously, having this mindset alone won't make you rich. You're not going to become a millionaire just from buying Tesco's Frosties. But what this mindset will do is give you the tools to help you save and not blow all your riches when you make them. But we're going to need a way to actually make those riches, and that's where property investing comes in. Now, you don't have to invest in property. You could take your £4,000 a year and invest it into an S&P 500 tracker fund. At an annualised rate of say 8%, over 20 years of investing £4 a year, you'd have £210,000, which is pretty cool. And if you up that to only £6,000 a year, you'd have £315,000, which is pretty crazy. Let's say you decide to leave it all in there for an extra 10 years to make 30 years total. You'd have £750,000, which is a fairly nice sum to retire on. But we don't want to retire on a pretty nice sum. We want to retire rich, and we want to retire early. We want to retire with our money growing even once we've retired. And we can do that with the power of leverage. But with stock investing, say if you wanted to buy £50,000 worth of stocks, it cost you £50,000. But with property investing, if you wanted to buy a £100,000 property, it would only cost you £10,000, because obviously the bank would lend you the rest. So let's talk about property investing, and I'll make this super simple. Now you'll probably need more than £4,000 to buy your first property. But let's say you've got the cash and you buy your first property. You buy one that's in some desperate need of love and a good renovation. You buy a small one-bed house for about 180k using a 10% deposit mortgage. And actually this is buying in Surrey, so if you're anywhere else in the country, it's probably going to be even cheaper. Okay, so you buy the property for 180. You do about 15k worth of work and completely refresh the place. You live in the place for a little while and then you sell it, and you can probably sell this property for 240k. 240 minus 15 minus 180 gives you about a 45k profit, and that's pretty nice for your first deal. Now it will take a little while to find a deal like this, but it's absolutely possible, I can assure you, because I've done it myself. I bought a property for 180k and put about 15k worth of work into it. I actually put 12k worth of work, but let's call it 15 because it's a round number, and then sell it for 240. So let's take off some loan fees, some legal fees, selling costs, and other bits and pieces. And let's say that you've got about 35k left. This will probably take you about 8 to 12 months, so that you've saved another 4k, as you're saving about 4k a year. And let's just say that you've got another 6k in savings, so all in all you've got about 45k. So you're going to do the 15k worth of work, but this time instead of selling the property for 240, you're going to refinance it. You're going to refinance onto an 80% LTV buy-to-let mortgage, which is going to give you a loan of 190,000 and leave in around 50,000 of equity or your money in the property. This 190k mortgage is going to pay off the old loan of 135k and your 15k of refurbishments, and will leave you with 45k to go again. A good tip for doing these refurbishments is to use a 0% interest credit card. That way you can put the refurbishments on the credit card and pay it off when you get these loan monies. So that way you'll pay it off and obviously still have your 45k. I've actually made a whole video on this, on how to do refurbishments with zero cash. You're then going to need to find a tenant and rent the property out to them. This kind of property will probably rent out for about £1,000 a month, maybe a bit more. You'll easily cover the mortgage, the vacancy, the repairs and any other kind of costs that come up, and you'll probably be making around about 500 quid a month cash flow. But for this example, let's just assume you're making zero cash flow, just to make it easier on the numbers. Let's also assume that we have zero capital gains as well, just to make it easy again. It's quite unlikely because in the UK, over the long term, the property market increases about 3 to 5% a year. It's been a little less recently because of Brexit, but again, let's just assume zero, just to make it easier. Now on to year number 3, and you just rinse and repeat. You buy for 180, do your 15k worth of work, and refinance for 240. You can probably do about 2 of these a year. Let's say you buy your first property in January, and then you do your work, and while you're refurbishing, you're looking for property number 2. As soon as property number 1 is finished, you buy property number 2 and get to work. And now some of you more savvy investors might be thinking, hey, hang on a second, what about the 6-month rule? And I was trying to keep this video simple, but I'll explain the 6-month rule quickly as well. In the UK, you can't sell a property until at least 6 months after you've bought it, and that often applies to refinancing too. But there's some products out there called bridge to let, which is where you start on a bridging loan and instantly refinance onto a buy-to-let mortgage at the higher value as soon as the refurbishments are done. So take that, people that like to pick holes in everything. So you can probably do around 2 of these deals a year. So that means that in 2.5 years, you're going to be a millionaire because you'll have 1.2 million in assets. But how have I worked that out? Let's say each of these properties is 240k. And in the first year, we're going to do 2 deals. Second year, so we'll have 4 deals. 2.5 years, we'll have 5 deals done. So 240 times 5 is 1.2 million in assets. You're probably also going to have around 1,500 to 2,500 a month in passive rental income, just from your tenants paying you money to stay at these properties. But I suppose, even though you're technically a millionaire, as you've got over $1 million in assets, you're not technically a net millionaire, because you've got a lot of loans against these properties, as each one's financed onto an 80% LTV mortgage. So what do? You just keep rinsing and repeating, doing it over and over again. You could probably increase the number of deals you do as well, up from 2 a year. Some people do up to 30 a year. But let's keep it simple and let's just stick at 2 a year. So even though you've got 1.2 million in assets, only 240k of that is yours, because obviously you're using a mortgage product that's 1/5 of the entire value. So you're going to need an additional 760k to become a millionaire. So if 760k is 1/5, then 5/5 are 3.8 million. That means you need another 3.8 million worth of properties to become a net millionaire with over 1 million in actual cash in properties. So assuming you keep everything the same, buy for 180, refurb for 15, refinance for 240, that means you're going to need an additional 15 properties to have that extra 3.8 million in assets. If you stick to doing 2 deals a year, that's an extra 7.5 years to become a net millionaire and have over 5 million in property asset value. So all in all, it's taken you about 10 or 11 years. You've got 1 million in net equity, a property portfolio worth over 5 million, and this portfolio will cash flow every single month. Also, you could probably do this even quicker because you can use that cash flow to save for the next property. You'll be saving around your 4k a year from your job or whatever kind of income you have. And these properties are also going to benefit from capital gains. So you could refinance these properties and pull out more cash so that you can do more deals in a single year. You could do 3 or 4. Now it got a little bit complicated there towards the end, so feel free to rewind the video and watch it back. Alternatively, drop a comment down below on any of the bits that you got stuck on and I'll make sure to answer it for you. As always, if you want to learn more about property investing, feel free to watch some of my other videos. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way, you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers!